sit back, relax, and let's have a chapter chat. And today we are going on a road trip with best-selling author Mary Kay Andrews. Welcome back to the podcast, Mary Kay.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
And you are on a whirlwind book tour right now for your latest novel, Road Trip.
That's correct.
And Road Trip is such a fun read. You are getting some wonderful feedback from it.
Yeah, I've been really just so appreciative of readers coming to the events and people telling me that that they've enjoyed the ride. So what's better than that?
Oh, I know. And Mary Kay, I have to say, you have so much humor in your books, but it doesn't just hit you right in the face. I feel like sometimes it's a little bit of hidden humor.
Well, hopefully, I think what happens is I create characters that are relatable, and the humor comes from their personalities.
Yeah, and I think really developing those characters, that is an art form, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm still working on it.
Always trying to better yourself, right?
Absolutely. Every time I sit down to write, I think to myself, maybe this time I'll get it right. Maybe I'll get it better this time.
For those listeners who maybe haven't read Road Trip, let's give them a brief synopsis.
Yeah, this book is about two sisters, long estranged, and their mothers just passed away, and she has left them this family portrait that she's always told them is priceless. They have questions about it, but she's also left them a coffee can full of money that she saved over the years from her paycheck. She was widowed and raised her daughters off her money that she made managing her brother-in-law's drugstore. So she's left them a coffee can of cash with the bucket wish list that they'll go to Ireland and discover their family roots, but also find a way back to healing the rift between them.
And what made you decide to focus in on that sisterly relationship?
I'm the middle of three sisters, actually, and we lost my older sister some years ago, unfortunately, but my younger sister and I are very, very, very different. We are not estranged. We love each other, but she lives in England, so I don't get to see her as much as I'd like. But I wanted to write about two sisters who had completely different personalities, but I wanted them to find what they had in common and to appreciate what they had in common, and also to find a way to reinvent themselves. And that's something that I think is a common denominator in all my books, women reinventing themselves.
I would say that is true. And I love how you empower those female characters to do that.
Yeah. As a woman myself, I want my characters to get to define themselves and their place in the world, and always, in the arc of my story, I want them to find themselves in a better place, because the one thing I promise my readers with every book is when you close the covers of one of my novels, you're gonna be happy. You're gonna sigh and say, "Oh, I wish the story could go on." And then you're gonna call somebody and tell them to buy the book too.
I have done that a time or two, I have to say.
Thank you.
I'm a fan of your work, and so that's why we decided to have you on the podcast a second time. Were there any challenges that you encountered writing Road Trip?
Yeah, for one thing, it's somewhat of a dual timeline story. So in the prologue of the book starts in the early 1900s with a young Irish orphan. She's 18 years old. Her name is Kathleen Connor, and she's been raised in this family of Anglo-Irish aristocrats. And at the very beginning of the book, there's a murder, and before the murder happens, the person who's brought her to live with this family in this amazing estate in Ireland, she has told her, "You are a member of our family, but and the girl has always thought she was not a member of this family. She doesn't really know why she was brought to live there. And then Lady Delia is her benefactress, her protector. And as soon as she tells Kathleen, you are a member of this family, and this portrait, the portrait is sort of the MacGuffin of the book. She tells her, and she cuts this portrait out of the frame and gives it to her and says, and now you're going to America. And so I needed to research what that journey would have been like at that time. My own grandparents, both my father's parents were Irish immigrants who came over in about that time period. And we didn't know very much about them, especially my grandmother and her journey. So I needed to research what that would have looked like in that time, in the shortly after the turn of the century, what that journey would have been, what it was like to ride my grandmother and my grandfather 2 years later. They traveled in steerage in a ship called the Cedric, a White Star Line ship called the Cedric. And I wanted to know what that would have been like and what it was like when they reached their destination, which was Ellis Island, of course, in New York. And what would my character, what would Kathleen's life would have looked like once she got to America? And so that took some research. So I'd been to Ellis Island before, but I went back again. And I toured this great museum in New York on the Lower East Side, the Tenement Museum, which is really a museum of the immigrant experience in the United States, and did some library research. And of course, tragically, had to go to Ireland, take my own road trip to Ireland to trace the journey that Maeve and Therese take in the book.
I was actually going to ask you if you went to Ireland, because I know that authors, they like to be immersed in the world that they're creating. So I would think that you would have to travel there.
Yeah, I had been to Dublin before, but never out to the countryside. And I had never been to the west of Ireland and the coast, where most of the story takes place. So with the help of a dear friend, we planned the trip. We flew into Dublin and rented a car and drove to the coast. And so most of the places where the action takes place in the book are real places in Ireland. For instance, the port that Kathleen Connor, my 18-year-old orphan, leaves from, is a real place. There's a marvelous museum of the Irish immigrant experience there. And so spent some time there and touring an estate nearby called Rusborough House. And Rusborough House, I thought, would be the stand-in for the estate where Maeve and Therese's great-great-grandmother Kathleen has been raised. But what I didn't know was that once I got to Rusborough, I would learn that that estate had been the site of a real-life art heist.
So I guess that kind of catapulted you into that next portion of the novel.
Yeah, I had I had this portrait that I knew there were questions about, but I didn't know how to solve those questions. But once I was touring Rusborough House and I heard about this art theft, this heist, which was pulled off by an IRA gang in the 70s during what they call the Troubles in Ireland. And I was fascinated to learn that the ringleader of this IRA gang was a woman who came from a very wealthy English family. Her name was Rose Dugdale, and you can watch a documentary about the real Rose. So all of that sort of played, it just was a springboard for so much of the plot. And I had no idea that I would encounter any of that. So I think I got the luck of the Irish when I was doing this tour, this road trip.
I think you did. Wow, that's amazing. And I know when you discover things like that, it's probably mind-blowing because you're like, this is the missing piece I needed in my work.
It definitely is. And then I at the estate we stayed at, which is called Rustboro House, we stayed in an inn on the premises, and they also had a distillery, and so where they make whiskey, Irish whiskey. And so I did that tour, and the master distiller, I took a look at him and I thought, I could use him for a love interest in the book for Maeve.
Love it. I feel like you have so many different elements in your novels. So there's always a mystery of some sort. There's a little love interest in there. There's rich character development. And there's also female empowerment.
Yeah, this turned out to be, I knew that there would be an old unsolved murder at the beginning in the prologue of this book that happens, back in the 1920s. What I didn't know was that I would have to have another murder later near the end of the book. So there's murder, I'd say there's kissing and there's killing. So it's not really a straight mystery. It's not really a straight romance. It's not really a straight thriller. It's just a story about two sisters and their journey to discover the truth about themselves and their family.
And you've been writing a long time. How have you noticed readers changing, or have they changed over time?
I think readers still appreciate a good story. I think that's what we all want. And right now, this country is in sort of a time of chaos and turmoil. And I think more than ever now, my readers want a story that takes them away. And I'm proud to write novels that have escapist elements, but they also have elements that I think contemporary readers, especially women, can relate to. So I think that hasn't changed. Readers want a good story. They want characters that they can relate to. They want characters they can root for. And they want a compelling plot and a satisfying ending. And that doesn't change. It doesn't matter if you're reading a print book, or if you're reading on an e-reader, or if you're listening to it on audio. Sometimes the platforms and the formats change, but the essential story is what readers, I think, want.
And I think it's interesting that you talked about readers wanting something to escape to. As a journalist, we encounter a lot of heavy topics on a daily basis. It can wear you down. So as a reader myself, I do love to escape when I'm reading so that I'm not in that headspace anymore.
Yeah, I think all of us want that. We want to escape to a world where good and bad are more easily recognized, and where there is justice, because justice doesn't always happen, unfortunately, in real life. And I hope that's what my books deliver. I'm a former journalist myself, and so I know for myself, when things get heavy, that's when I need to retreat into a good story.
Yes. Do you ever miss that part of your life, being a journalist?
I miss the excitement of the moment of being in the story when a big story breaks, and being a part of that. And I miss the immediacy of journalism, especially daily journalism. That it's such an adrenaline rush, and to collaborate with valued team members in delivering a story like that. So yeah, I definitely miss that part. I don't miss the grind of a daily deadline, and I don't miss endless meetings, and I definitely don't miss office politics.
Yeah. Right. There's something to be said for all of those things, right?
Definitely, definitely. But I mean, I'm such a stalwart believer in journalism and the free press, and so I'll always champion that.
And I think that it's more important than ever for us to champion that.
It definitely is, and to hold journalists and journalism to the highest standards, and not to give in to political pressures.
And I feel like we're maybe seeing that turn. I feel like there was a time when, we would just go out in public and people would sometimes say some not so nice things if they knew that you were a journalist or in the news business. And I feel like I'm almost feeling a little bit of a shift back, and I'm not hearing quite as much of that rhetoric anymore.
Yeah, I hope that's true. I really hope that's true. There's a reason they call journalism the fifth estate. It's vital, absolutely vital to our democracy. So I cheer on all the folks that are out there in the trenches reporting the news and bringing it to all of us.
And journalism is vital. Reading is vital for our society. And that's why it's so important to encourage that and encourage books of all types to be out in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a writer today because my mother was a reader and I was reading before first grade, and I had incredible public school teachers who encouraged my reading and encouraged me to branch out in my reading and to write. And so I absolutely believe that books will save us.
Books will save us. Information, the transfer of information, that's accurate and factual.
Definitely.
And I think that we have information overload sometimes in society now. And so escaping with a book, and I still love a book that I can hold in my hand.
I like a physical book too sometimes, but my husband reads strictly on his e-reader. So the great thing is that we have all these different platforms available, and it's such an incredible. Libraries are such an incredible asset. You know, people can download books from the library. They can borrow books from the library. They can download audiobooks through their public libraries. So I always want to shout out our public libraries because they are bringing books and ideas to everyone. You no longer have to be, there are people who can't afford. My mother couldn't afford to buy books. If we hadn't had a bookmobile that came to our neighborhood shopping center once a month, we couldn't have afforded all the books that we checked out.
Well, I remember as a child on Saturdays going to our public library, and that was so exciting to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to do that.
Yeah, libraries are such an huge, huge, important asset in our communities, and so and they do such wonderful work. I've done so many amazing library events on this book tour for Road Trip, and it's just so encouraging to see the folks who gather and see the wonderful work that librarians have done, bringing authors, and not just me, but all kinds of authors into the community to share their stories with their patrons.
And I know that you are on a road trip right now to talk about Road Trip, but I also know that you always have something else planned for the future. Are you already working on your next project?
I am. I'm working on a book that will take me back to my hometown of St. Pete because I'm a native Floridian.
Love it.
A few years ago, I wrote a book called Sunset Beach. So I'm working on the sequel to that.
Ooh, that'll be nice. Is this the first time that you've done a sequel to something?
No, I mean, I did 4 books in the Savannah series. And of course, I wrote a mystery series under my real name to start with. But yeah, this is the first time I've done a sequel in quite a while.
And I know you also have some wonderful holiday books. Do you have any of those on the horizon?
Well, I've been tinkering with an original Christmas short story. I can't say too much more about it because it's sort of it's on the back burner right now while I tour for road trip and start, I'm getting ready once in the fall after I'm completely done with the road trip book tour, then I'll go back down to St. Pete and embed myself and start working on that. But yeah, I started tinkering with another Christmas story. I love writing them, and my readers seem to love reading them.
Yeah, they are very popular, aren't they?
Yeah.
But who doesn't love Christmas? I mean, it's a great time of year.
Yeah.
We have a lot of listeners who, of course, love to read, but we also have some aspiring writers that listen to the podcast. Do you have any advice to them?
Yeah, I think read the genre. If you're writing genre fiction, read the genre you're writing in and really study it and figure out what about it appeals to you and who's publishing those kinds of stories. And as for the writing itself, I started writing when I was still working full time and had young children. So I tell writers, especially women, carve out time for yourself. Um, at least every week and every day if you can afford it, but that time has to be absolutely sacrosanct and holy to you. Don't let anybody else interrupt you. Put up the no disturb sign. If you can, come up with what I call a synopsis, which is sort of a blueprint for what you think your story will be, and really give yourself page or word quotas for every day that you're writing. For instance, when I'm writing, I shoot for a 2,000 word day. I don't always make that goal, but that's what I'm shooting for. And I try not to be too hypercritical. I think so many writers, me included, we're all just enveloped in self-doubt and self-hate. And of course, imposter syndrome is a real thing. So give yourself permission to write and write all the way to the end of your story and then go back and revise. So don't get yourself into such a mess that all you're doing is erasing and revising, because then you'll never move forward with your story. So write all the way to the end of your story, then you can go back and revise, you can re-edit. But my motto is you can't fix what you ain't wrote.
True. And you can always go back. That rough draft is a rough draft for a reason.
Right. You can't fix an empty page, but you can fix a page or 2 pages or a chapter afterwards. So get it down on paper, get your momentum going, and then go back and edit and revise.
And how long does it typically take you to write those 2,000 words?
If I'm having a really good day, I can do 2,000, sometimes exceed it in an 8-hour day. I give myself permission to take breaks, get up and take a walk, so that it isn't so much drudgery. And I used to write a book a year, but now, 2 years ago, after my previous book, Summers at the Saint, came out, I decided to give myself some more breathing room. So now I'm on a every other year schedule for my books.
Breathing room is sometimes a good thing to protect our own peace.
Definitely.
And when you were trying to write while you had your journalism job and you were a busy mom, how much time would you carve out to write when you were in that period of your life?
I gave myself Wednesday nights. I was part of a writers group of other writers, reporters in the newsroom where I worked in Atlanta. And we would meet on Thursdays over lunch. And so Wednesday nights, I didn't have a computer home. This is 36 years ago. So I would sneak back to the paper after I put my kids to bed, and I would write for 2 or 3 hours. And I gave myself, because I had such a short amount of time, I really had to make that time productive. And then I wrote on weekends. And if I could, if my son was young, he was 4 years old when I left newspaper. So I would, when he was in daycare, if I had a sitter, that was the time that I really told myself, put up the do not disturb sign and get down to business and write.
And it paid off.
Yeah. You have to treat it like it's another job. You can't, if you treat it like it's a silly little hobby, then the people around you will do that too. And they will invariably say, "Oh, I hate to interrupt, but I'm going to interrupt." And you have to really let the people around you, family and friends, know, "No, I'm serious about this. This is my time. Don't knock on my door. Don't call me. This is my time."
And what message do you have for your current readers?
I hope that they will get a copy of Road Trip, enjoy it, and let others know that they have enjoyed it, and share the love, and just share the joy of reading with others, because I think it's now more than ever, we need joy in our lives, and I hope my books bring that.
Well, I know that your books have brought me joy, so I have to thank you for that, Mary Kay.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you so much. And Road Trip is out now. You want to pick up a copy? You won't regret it. You've been listening to Chapter Chat. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Happy reading.